Hello and welcome to the RETHINK Live event, getting to know net zero buildings and the role of smart technology, brought to you by Danfoss Climate Solutions. My name's Dean Groff, Food Retail Services Contract Manager here at Danfoss, and at Danfoss we produce and develop solutions and products that contribute to a more sustainable building and world. Now before we start, if you have any questions throughout the session, please drop them in the Q&A box on the On24 platform. We will get to them at the end. Now net zero buildings, why are they important? And if they are important, how do we address the issue? So today I want to cover the Danfoss Advanced Development Center and Smart Store, as well as talk about some of the mega trends driving our world today, give you an overview of the applications inside the store itself, as well as a sneak peek on a video of the store. At the end, we'll take your questions and answers. I believe we can all agree that we're seeing and experiencing global warming, and there are issues that it causes. If we look back at the Paris Agreement, there was an alignment between 96 parties that we should work to limit global warming to below 2 degrees or less. Is it possible? I don't know, but it's a noble goal, and we should look to reach that if possible. So, how does global warming relate to buildings? Well, to start with, we spend most of our time in buildings, and it's been stated that buildings are contributing to around 39% towards the carbon emissions globally. And out of that 39%, about 28% of that are operational emissions. Now, this is the energy that we use to heat and cool the buildings themselves. And projections also indicate that we're going to occupy even more building space in the future. And this demand could, in fact, double by 2060. So it's clear, we're going to need more buildings, but at the same time, we need to reduce the carbon emissions. So what to do? The World Economic Forum in 2020 listed 4 drivers that could lead the way to net zero buildings. They called them the good deeds. Decarbonization of the electrical grid. We're going to use more electricity in the future, so we have to move away from fossil fuels. The first E is for electrification of the building space and water heating. Again, shifting away from fossil fuels. The second E is for efficiency improvements to reduce energy demand. If we electrify, we need to do it in the most efficient way possible. This is where Danfoss leads the way. A statement you hear a lot inside Danfoss is the greenest energy we have is the energy we don't use. And I think we can all get on board with that statement. The last D is for digitalization. Now this provides the needed flexibility in how we use this energy we have and allows us to use it in the most efficient way possible. So what about 23? What should we do today to accelerate our journey towards net zero buildings? What I want to show you is what the future of food retail could look like. On June 26, Danfoss celebrated the grand opening of its new Smart Store and Applications Development Center located in Nordborg, Denmark. This retail grocery store is projected to be a net zero building, utilizing off-the-shelf technology. So if someone here wanted to build a net zero store today, you could do it. It's not a science project. And while the grand opening of the retail store happened on June 26th, the Advanced Development Center just opened to the public on August 24th. So why would Danfoss build a net zero building to begin with? Well, we wanted to show what's possible with today's technology in a way that would relate to building owners and be an inspiration to the industry. We also wanted a location for the advancement and testing of our new technology. The Smart Store ADC touches on multiple technology, everything from cooling to heating, from the smallest sensors on the system to the cloud, and is scalable from both small format to large format retail stores. This store from the start was designed with efficiency and net zero in mind. It's a certified operating retail establishment proving that with today's technology, food losses can be predicted and food safety guaranteed. That stores themselves can deliver more energy than they consume and have zero emissions. And that all the systems themselves can be self-adaptive and learning. This smart store includes the best in energy efficiency. Things like solar panels, geothermal, heat recovery. It includes biodiversity and green spaces and rainwater collection. And this rainwater that's collected is filtered through the green space itself. The refrigeration system utilizes natural refrigerants like CO2 and incorporates Danfoss ejector technology, along with our CO2 Adaptive Liquid Management System, or CALM, making it one of the most efficient systems in use today. The technology in the Smart Store ADC touches on the global megatrends that are transforming our world today. All the things like climate change, food supply, electrification, and digitalization. How do we address climate change? Well, greenhouse gases have increased by 50% since 1990. The best way to reduce this is to move to a low global warming refrigerant. The Smart Store ADC utilizes natural refrigerants, majority being CO2, with some self-contained cases utilizing propane, or R290. It also includes advanced gas leak detection and monitoring, so when a leak happens, we know it immediately and can fix it. We're also including and controlling the energy flow and generation through the use of live data and annual averaging and controls. Most of the energy for the Smart Store itself comes from renewable resources such as solar, wind, and district heating. The food supply is addressed with the use of live data on food temperature monitoring and reporting such as HAPAS and TQI reports. This is done through our AllSense, which also handles the temperature deviations and incident reporting and also monitors as much of the cold chain as possible. Now, how do we deal with electrification? If most things are moving to electricity, how do we address this? We do this through renewable resources like solar and wind. We also utilize energy storage so we can capture the energy that we have to use it when it's needed most. And we do this through active energy management. We also have things at the Smart Store like electric car charging, and we also take any extra heat that we have and energy and supply it out to the district heating. The last megatrend is digitalization. This is supported through Danfoss AllSense, connecting all of the dots. The store connectivity and IoT and big data cloud are what ties it all together so we can manage all the energy resources that we have in a very standard and thoughtful way. This is supported again through our AllSense services. Now for a little bit of information about the store itself. The Advanced Development Center is about 6,500 square feet and houses the engine of the retail store. It has office space, a lounge, training rooms, and the equipment, and is located just behind the retail space itself. The retail store itself is 8,800 square feet with roughly 156,000 BTUs of cooling split between medium temperature and low temperature. Beyond the food retail store, there's a car wash and gas station and charging stations for the electric cars. As you can imagine, the store has a lot of equipment. And for the most part, it's off the shelf. We have the typical things you would expect to see in a retail grocery store. A standard CO2 transcritical rack running most of the store with a gas cooler. The refrigeration display cases have doors for energy efficiency and some independent coolers and freezers, which utilize propane. And there are also a few cold rooms inside the establishment. We also have some things you won't find in a typical installation, such as our advanced CO2 rack, which is utilized for our testing. And the store itself can switch between the two different CO2 systems when needed. We also have a ground source loop for storing energy and utilizing ground source energy, and we have a CO2 chiller that's operating the cooling of the store needs. Included in this, we have a heat recovery unit, which is taking energy from the CO2 system instead of just blowing it off into the atmosphere. And as you would expect, we have air handling units, only in this case, the heating comes from the heat recovery units and the CO2 system, and the cooling comes from the CO2 chiller. In addition to that, you'll find photophytolic systems that provide most of the energy needed for the store. And what I'd like to do now is show you some actual video of the facility itself, and then we can come back and take your questions. let's see if there are any questions. You talked about solar power. How much energy do you expect to get from the photophytalic cells? Well, let's see here. The cells themselves are about 100 kW, so we expect about 100,000 kilowatt hours per year of energy at our disposal for the store, which theoretically should be enough to operate the store. Okay, so the next question we have here is, what do you see as an easy adoption for North American retailers to take from this store? So if you're planning a transcritical CO2 store, you really should be thinking about taking advantage of all the heat that you're going to be removing from the building. Normally today, we capture this heat, we move it out of the building, and then we blow it out in the atmosphere. By implementing the Danfoss Heat Recovery Unit, you would save a lot of energy by taking this heat and utilizing it in other areas, whether it be heating the building or for potable water or for anything else you can use heat for. Capturing this heat and using it is a huge money saver that in North America we're just not utilizing today. Okay, so for the next question, what's the one thing that you see that sets this store apart from others? Well, if I had to pick just one thing, I would say it's the connectivity. In this store here, we're taking all of the systems and allowing them to talk to each other in a very managed way. And we're actually taking that advantage and utilizing energy and moving it around where it's needed most. And I really think that this connectivity is a game changer in the industry. Okay, so the last question we're going to take today, is the Smart Store accessible today? And the answer to that is yes. If you want to visit the store in Denmark, just reach out to your account manager and he'll make the arrangements for you to go visit the store. For those who submitted questions today and we didn't get to answering them, just be patient. We'll get to you shortly. Thank you. Now I'd like to leave you with some takeaways from today's Rethink Live. So the Smart Store itself reimagines what the food retail space for the 21st century could look like. All of the Danfoss cutting-edge technology and efficiency food retail solutions are brought together into one retail site. We think that 50% more energy efficiency is possible in this store versus the best technology that's out there, and the Smart Store is expected to be 50% more energy efficient than a typical first-generation CO2 store, and we estimate it to be 30% more than the sum of most of the most efficient stores out there today. You can get most of your power from renewable resources, and we expect to prove this, and a primary energy source in this case is solar. Heat recovery can reduce heating costs up to 90%. Utilizing this heat that we typically blow off into the atmosphere, I think, is one of the biggest advantages this store brings to us in energy efficiency. And the key to reducing energy demand itself is the management of the energy, moving it from where it's not needed to where it's needed when it's needed. Thank you for your time today. I'm Dean Groff for Danfoss Rethink Live, and stay tuned for our next Rethink Live session starting at 3 p.m. You can still register on our website.